All right, welcome to Whiskey and Whitetails, where we drink whiskey and shoot deer. Uh, I'm Gus.
That was a lazy one, but I like it. I'll take
Yep.
it.
Yeah. So I did not have a fun read for today, but thank you for joining. This is our podcast. We talk whiskey, we talk hunting, and we have a good one for you today. But before that, we would like to always extend our gratitude to the Waypoint Network for hosting us, to our awesome Patreon members for their support and their help, especially those executive producers, and helping us produce this show, giving us feedback and insight into what they like and don't like. And then, of course, you, the listener supporters, we appreciate everything you do, tuning in, liking, sharing, all that fun stuff. So thank you very much for the support. We wouldn't be doing this if it weren't for you.
Mm-hmm.
We also wouldn't be doing this if it weren't for some awesome sponsors and good friends that we have. Matt, why don't you first tell them about Mint Mobile?
Well, I was also going to say before we do that,
sorry.
Friday, September 20th. So we're getting there. This is episode 197.
Oh, yeah, 200.
So this episode comes out on September 2nd, and then September 9th, and then on September 20th. No, well, it's going to be live September 20th is the point. So Friday, September 20th, I think we're starting at 8 p.m. Eastern, and we have 9 or 10 people calling in just to chat and talk about it. So episode 200, we're excited about it. So go ahead and mark your calendars for that. That should be a good live event, and we're going to give away something for those watching live. So keep that in mind.
Do we know what that is yet, or are we still?
I know what it is.
Oh, okay, cool.
It'll be a cool prize pack. There will be whiskey in it, and maybe a hat, maybe a couple things.
Cool.
It's a party. It's a celebration, bitches.
Yeah.
All right. Citizens of Gotham, listen closely. The city is under siege by overpriced phone bills, but fear not, because justice has a name, and that name is Mint Mobile. You see, crime and corruption are everywhere, even in your wireless plan. They are overcharging you. They're hiding fees that are lurking in the shadows, and their contracts are impossible to escape. But Mint Mobile, they're different. They believe in truth, transparency, and most importantly, saving you money. For just $15 a month, you get unlimited talk, text, high-speed data on the nation's largest 5G network. No contracts, no hidden fees, just justice for your wallet. You can leave at any time. So if you make a switch and you don't like it, just get out. I've seen the darkness that overpriced phone plans bring to this city. And as long as I'm around, I'll make sure every citizen has the power to fight back with Mint Mobile. Because I'm not just Batman. I'm a Mint Mobile customer too. Justice starts with a call. Switch to Mint Mobile today. And you can do that by going to mintmobile.com/whiskey and signing up. We just had a friend, Stark Lord Shapley, made the switch on Wednesday, I guess.
Yep.
Loving it. He's no longer paying $180 a month for cell phone service, just $15 a month. And he got that from mintmobile.com/whiskey.
Yeah.
They do cool deals all the time, much like our friends at Vantage Point Archery.
All right. Folks, let me tell you, nobody makes better broadheads than Vantage Point Archery. I've seen a lot of broadheads. Trust me, and these are the best. They're American made, which, as you know, is very important. You want quality, you want precision, and Vantage Point delivers every single time. Whether you're out there in the woods, taking down big game, like my son, or just showing off your skills, these broadheads are going to make you look like a real winner. Now, I don't just endorse anything, okay? But I do endorse Vantage Point Archery because they are simply the best. They've got a variety of products, all made with American craftsmanship, and prices are tremendous.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to love it, believe me. So head over to vparchery.com, get yourself the best broadhead you've ever seen. You'll thank me later, folks. It's a total game changer and make hunting great again.
Some people say their prices are perfect, but I think they're great.
Yeah, I didn't do a very good job of that.
I can't do it either.
It's okay.
It'd be great if I could. Shane Gillis should do Trump ad reads. That would be funny.
That would be hilarious. His body language and mannerism is even spot on. So shout out to him.
His head turn. He's nailed it. Cool.
All right.
Enjoy the episode.
Good episode. Enjoy the episode.
Oh, it's on Blue Laws, by the way.
We're talking about Blue Laws.
Which we've been wanting to do for a while.
Whiskey. So check it
CC.
out. All right.
Bye.
Toodles.
What's going on? Happy Friday.
Happy Friday, Mr. Green. How are you?
Government name. Doing good. How are you? I saw something the other day. Speaking of that, not to already get off topic, but it was like you're born with a name, a race, and a religion, but it's like at the end of the day, you didn't choose any of those. So it's like,
it's true.
Who are you? Are you really who your name is? Like somebody gave you that name. That's not something you decided.
Correct.
And a lot of people grow up with beliefs and such that were not their own.
That's true. Yep, that's very true. A lot of things That's that way in a lot of cultures. A lot of cultures don't know anything. I mean, look at an extreme case. Look at North Korea.
Hmm.
And I was talking to Jessica about this. Like, I wonder what it's like for those North Korean athletes that get to leave the country and go to Paris and like see things, and then like all the things they've been told. It's like, do they have to get like segregated and put into a special place when they go back?
Yeah, like you can't
You know,
talk
like
about this. They
you
probably have
can't
like
talk.
guards there that keep them from interacting with stuff.
I bet you they do. It's pretty crazy to think about. But yeah,
That
man.
same video I saw, he was talking about how old this planet is that we don't even realize.
Hmm.
And so I thought he was full of shit, basically. So I had to look it up, and he's not. But so they've been like in these mine shafts, like digging out the earth,
Hmm.
and because of how many layers deep that is, they can determine how old it is. So they found a hammer. Let's see, Oldowan toolkits, including hammers, stone cores, shaped stone flakes. They're 1.76 million years old.
What?
Yeah,
That's pretty old.
pretty old. And then I found one about pottery. Of course, now I'm not going to find it. But the pottery thing, it was like they found pottery that was like 60,000 years old or something.
Yeah,
Like
it's
full
funny.
pieces, not chunks of it, like full
Oh no,
undamaged
shit.
pieces of pottery.
That's
Crazy,
pretty
right?
cool. Yeah, I've seen a couple. I've seen some documentaries and some articles from digs that have taken place where they have uncovered old civilizations, especially here in North America.
Mm-hmm.
Where they found footprints and things like that. There's a famous set of footprints. It's footprint of a uh, what they believe is a mother and a child, and you can actually see in the footprint where they're walking together, and then for a period of time she picks up the child.
Mm-hmm.
There's no other footprints, and then she puts the child down again. There's another set of footprints. It's just like very
Oh,
human nature type things that you're able to just look at and see from archaeological evidence. I think it's pretty cool.
I found it. It's called the Jomon pot,
Hmm.
and it's 26,000 years old.
Golly, man, that's wild.
Yeah. Which is funny too, because people argue about carbon dating, but when you're that recent, they're pretty spot on. Like
Sure.
they're pretty good at it. When you start talking about millions of years, it's like give or take 500,000, but still,
Yeah, that's what I love when people quote stuff from like that, and they seem to gloss over that margin for error, like it's not a big deal. Like
yeah.
half a million years is a lot of shit can happen in half, half a million years.
I started writing some of these things down because I was looking up stuff about just ancient history and whatnot because I'm interested
Yeah.
in it. But I found some of these things. Like you ever seen the stuff that's like these things happened at the same time in history and like people don't realize it.
Mm-mm. Oh yeah,
So,
yeah, 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 yeah.
so like the Mongols, like everybody, like think of when you think the Mongols existed. Like everybody, just think about how long ago that was.
Yeah.
So they were fighting the samurais and the crusaders at the same time. So like those things existed in tandem.
What?
Yeah.
It's weird because when you read history, they make it seem like those things were, if not in timeline, like in cultural like involvement, like totally separate,
Yeah.
unrelated things. But to
Well,
think that the Mongols were fighting them both
right.
tells you something about the size of them as well, like in terms of numbers.
Well, they were. It's like everybody thinks history is long, but like recorded history, what,
Hmm.
12,000 years or so, I think is
Yeah.
what they're saying. I mean, that's like a blink of an eye, man. Like only so much can happen between those things. But I wrote a
Sure.
few down because I thought they were interesting. When the Pilgrims landed on Plymouth Rock,
Hmm.
you could already visit a place that was called the Mayor's Castle or something. I don't remember what it's called, but it was in Santa Fe, New Mexico, and had a hotel and a restaurant in it.
What?
Yeah, I looked all these up. Like, these are true. This one's really going to get you. The first wagon train of the Oregon Trail, it left the exact same year in 1843 when the fax machine was invented.
Shut the fuck up. Really?
Yeah, Scottish inventor Alexander Bain patented the first fax machine, which used a pendulum-powered stylus to scan images and transmit them over telegraph lines.
Hmm. Man,
The
my idea of history is just all fucking
I think
jacked.
everybody's is, man. Like you don't realize a lot of the stuff. The Eastern Roman Empire fell only 40 years before Columbus reached America. So that
Wow.
means there were Romans that found out about the New World.
Yeah, and my lifespan, the amount of time I've been alive, that happened.
Yeah.
That's wild.
Um, Pablo Picasso, everybody knows who he is. He died the year Pink Floyd released Dark Side of the Moon.
Yeah, everybody thinks he was super old,
Yeah.
like a long time ago, but
He
no,
wasn't.
there's I mean, not at all.
But
Great
anyway,
album, by the way.
great album. That's the reason I wrote that down, because I know it was just one of your dad's favorites.
Indeed. All right, so you had a topic you wanted to dive into, which is a fascinating topic. I don't think we've done anything more than glaze over.
Yeah, I don't think we have either. A lot of people know about blue laws. I mean, a lot of us are affected by it in our current life, but
Hmm.
it's been a while since we've done a deep dive on something, and I thought it would be fun to do a deep dive on blue laws. And I kind of had
Yeah.
the idea from going to, where'd I go? Or Broad Branch Distillery,
Hmm.
and they were talking about how, due to I refuse to say the c word, but due to the events of 2020, but
Hmm.
we'll get into that. But like, some of these laws had changed faster than has ever happened in recorded time. So I was like, why don't we just start it off and let's go down what it is. So
Yeah.
I prepared some of the history, and I think, what did you get? Mostly,
I did a little dive on history and just some of the context of why, what the original idea was and
yeah.
purpose for these things were, and a little bit about some of the states that are still holding on to some of those things. I got a list of all the states and some
All
of the
right, good.
laws they still have in place. So
I
yeah,
didn't do that. So,
I'm down to talk about whatever.
all right. Well, we'll start with, I guess, the definition. So, also known as Sunday laws. Oh, but don't go off topic again. No, I'm going to. Did you know the original date of Christmas was January 6th?
I don't doubt it. If we followed an actual calendar where we had 13 months and
Yeah, the
28
Julian
days a
calendar.
month or whatever,
Yeah.
yeah, then it probably is.
Thought it was interesting. Anyway, Sunday laws. So Sunday trade laws and Sunday closing laws, and it's a restrict or ban on certain activity on Sundays, primarily in the Western world. And it was originally adopted for religious reasons to promote Christian day of worship, which I talked about in that video.
Mhm.
They would actually have militiamen force you to go to church on Sundays because it's
Nice.
important. But the common restrictions are a ban on business and recreational activities on Sundays, restriction of retail of hard goods, consumables, especially alcohol. They used to have limitations on travel, fashion. We're
Mhm.
still aware of hunting limitations, sports,
Yep.
stage performances, movie showings, gambling. I mean, the list goes on and on and on.
Uh, I I've heard some states banned any sort of like displays of affection
Oh yeah,
on
I'm sure.
on Sundays, all kinds of crazy stuff.
Hmm. So the current, it's still enforced in parts of the United States, Canada, European countries, Austria, Germany, Norway, Poland. There's like oceanic countries that it's still pretty popular in.
Hmm.
Um, but the Supreme Court continues to hold that blue laws are constitutional, like they are allowed to do it. Mainly because the courts recognize that both religious origins and some secular justifications, that providing a day of rest for your employees, things like that.
Right.
But various state courts have struck down some of the blue laws as unenforceable, or even unconstitutional. But the first blue law was enacted by Roman Emperor Constantine in 321 AD, prohibiting Sunday work. So you could not work on Sundays. And then,
Okay.
I don't really want to talk about more outside of the United States. So back to the U.S. The earliest was in 1619 in Jamestown, which is the one I was referring to earlier,
Yep.
about forcing people to go to church,
Right.
because it regulated moral behavior. Is what they were How they
Right.
got away with it.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But the term blue laws first appeared in 1755, associated with the puritanical laws at the time, and they've pretty much faced opposition since the beginning. Mainly, in both ways, people that are for it and against it.
Yeah.
Labor unions, ethnic minorities, secular groups, religious groups. I mean, there's pretty much everybody seems to be somewhat involved with this at some point in time. But the repeal relaxation of blue laws has been linked to increased alcohol and drug use, reduced church attendance, and other social changes,
Hmm.
which I thought was funny.
It is interesting.
But I think the main one we see today, because the only ones I can think of for sure, is alcohol sales, and some states don't allow hunting on Sunday, or some public land use on Sunday, things like that.
Yeah.
Um, but there was like a lot of notable legal cases, and so like McGowan versus Maryland, this upheld a blue law which cited that secular benefits, like promoting a uniform day of rest, and there's ongoing challenges to resolve around balancing regions religious freedoms with states with interest in maintaining public order and welfare. So a lot of these are based on old timey things that I don't really think would be that big of a deal today.
Yeah.
But I wanted to focus on some of the blue laws in whiskey, unless you have more historical references to discuss.
Nothing too interesting. The term the term blue, um, with regard to the blue law, there's not a conspiracy, but a misunderstanding that is perpetuated, that is believed that because uh, the individuals or the organization office, whomever was printing those laws during that time, printed them on a blue paper.
Mm.
But there's no, from what I was reading, there's actually no evidence that that is in fact the case. And I read that the term blue was actually used to refer to people who were kind of prude or a certain type of person who would have, uh, I didn't understand exactly, but either enacted or been for or been against these laws, and so they were referred to as blue laws. So I'm not sure which one's true,
Well, I
but
saw it too about political leanings, like the
yeah.
left was the one enforcing some of the stuff, which led me down the rabbit hole of did the parties actually switch? And that's a fascinating one, man, because it's like you can't talk about that at all because it's been such a talking point forever, and people are just going to argue till they're blue in the face,
Hmm.
blue. But one one of the things I saw was there was one guy that switched parties basically, like he went from being a racist Democrat and then switched over to the Republican side, and then
Right,
that's where that's like the only for sure proven because the Klan was part of the Democratic Party back in the day,
right.
but I really can't find any evidence that convinces me that
Yeah,
that there was indeed a party switch. I mean, there's people that switch parties. We see that today. We see Democrats go Republican all the time. I mean, there's several
sure.
in the news right now.
Yeah,
Um, but
independent.
it's weird how the rules kind of switched at some point, and I mean, it's a really long conversation that I don't. That's not what this episode's for, but
Yeah, it's
it
not
is
not what this.
fascinating.
It is fascinating, but yeah. So no, I didn't have any crazy historical
Okay.
things other than what you had. So
So this is more or less about alcohol since that's kind of what we're talking. It's funny that it relates to both whiskey and whitetails,
yeah,
but
it does impact whiskey and hunting quite a bit across the
funny.
country. So
So it's a great topic for us if this is made for us. So general restrictions on alcohol sales. Blue laws commonly restrict the sale of alcohol, including whiskey, on Sundays or specific holidays. These laws aim to promote rest and religious observance by limiting activities associated with leisure and consumption. And consumption is typically referred to as drinking. So in the United States specifically, there's alcohol sales restrictions, which includes whiskey, obviously, on
mhm,
Sundays, or they limit the hours in which alcohol can be sold. This idea is often tied that Sunday should be reserved for rest or religious observance. You should be in church, not at a bar drinking. But most states allow alcohol in bars and restaurants, and some of
mhm.
them, like Georgia, there's counties in Georgia that you can't drink before what is it, 10 a.m. on Sundays.
It's before 10 a.m. Yeah,
Yeah.
on Sundays if you're at a bar restaurant, and you cannot buy alcohol on Sundays.
Okay. Can you buy
So
what, beer?
I used to, yeah, you can buy, no, you can't even buy beer on Sundays, I don't
Yeah,
believe. I have to
unless
double
that's
check, but
changed.
because we used to have to go, and when I lived with my dad in Augusta and we would hang out and watch football all day on Sunday, we'd have to go buy, a 30 rack on Sunday for on Saturday to drink for Saturday and buy an extra one for us to drink on Sunday.
That would be so annoying to go like, be like, surely we're not going to drink 30 beers, and then before you
Yeah,
know it, it's four
try and
o'clock and 30 beers are gone, and then you're like, "Fuck."
yeah, well, kickoff is at 1 and pregame starts around 11, so,
Yeah, I mean,
before
you're
you.
getting the smoker going at 7, 8 a.m.
Yeah,
So,
exactly, exactly.
um, so some states allow the sale. Uh, we basically already said this, but some states allow the sale of alcohol on Sundays, but impose restrictions on the hours, while others have complete bans. For instance, certain counties may enforce dry laws
Yeah,
where the sale of alcohol is entirely prohibited, excuse me. And that's something that we saw kind of where I live from in North Carolina. It's
yep,
been
same,
repealed now, but growing up in a dry county, I mean, that was a
yeah,
lot of people never heard of it, but a lot of people have experienced it in some way.
yep,
Even my boss was telling me that he flew to some crazy place in Georgia where there was a dry county, and they have this like retirement place for airplane owners, and it's in the middle of this valley, and you land your airplane, there's a hangar, and then above the hangar is an apartment, and it's like a getaway. You can only get there by plane. Well, I mean, I guess there's a road, but you can only stay there if you have a plane there.
okay,
Um, and so the way this place was built is the guy that bought the land, he kind of like went to the county and was like, "Hey, this is what I'm trying to do." And the guy was like, "We'll let you do it, but first you're going to open a liquor store." And he's like, "Well, this is a dry county." He's like, "Well, in literally a month, we're repealing it, and we're going
yeah,
to need a liquor store." So they set him up. I'm sure there was some backdoor dealings with it,
oh, yeah,
They set him up to basically own this liquor store when the law was repealed, and he made so much money that he ended up building this massive place. It's really cool. I don't remember what it's called, but that story just happened to come to me.
Mm,
But
that's cool.
there's a lot of people that made money on repealing these laws. So there's a lot of
Yeah.
stuff involved with it outside of just religious and secular things. It's like, well, I want to be the one that does it. And so
Yep.
it's like there's a lot of facets, and it's one of the reasons that it's still such a huge thing. But blue laws were basically implemented to encourage people to go to church and refrain from drinking. This was associated with gatherings because it had the potential for misuse of alcohol. So there was limits
Hmm.
on that. In the 19th century, Sunday laws were backed by religious groups and labor unions. The consumption of whiskey and other spirits has been seen as a social problem, and these laws were basically to curb drinking. And they keep saying that over and over again, but it's, I mean, that's really the only reason.
Yeah. The thing is I think initially, like everything in this country, it started out as a hey, let's protect the Sabbath, right?
Yeah.
Like, make sure people are getting an opportunity to rest on the weekends, or at least on Sunday, so people can't have people working. Let's just do that to keep it. And it's over the years, I think it's progressed. And what I saw in North Carolina, similar to what you did when I first moved there in 1998 or 99, we lived in a dry county. And the only place you could buy liquor was at a restaurant, um, or actually, it wasn't even grocery stores for a long time. If you wanted liquor, you had to go to an ABC store. If you wanted beer or wine, you were going to have to go to like a class six on base.
Hmm.
Um, there were only a handful of grocery stores that sold it, as well as the bars and restaurants, because you had to pay ridiculous tax and license fees.
Yeah.
So the local and state governments have benefit to these laws because they can keep it in place and say, hey, this is a dry county, unless you want to give us a little something something to help line your pockets by lining our pockets. And that's what we saw. That's what I saw over the years as some of those laws loosened, or the price got cheaper. I don't know what happened, but over the course of time, more gas stations started getting it. And I actually had a friend, a good friend of mine, not good friend now, but for a while it was a good friend of mine. He fucked me over pretty good. His grandparents owned a gas station, tiny little town, and unfortunately, what happened was as that place developed and grew, they didn't grow with it. So their little two pump gas station remained a two pump gas station. Half of the store inside was filled with junk, and they had an opportunity to add beer to their coolers and increase sales, but because of their religious stance, they wouldn't. They only sold cigarettes. Mhm. Because grandma smoked some Pall Malls, and she liked to have her cigarettes, but they
Hmm.
refused to sell alcohol. And unfortunately, the gas station down the road and the new one that was built a few years later sold lots of beer, and they ended up having to close their shop. So there's huge economic and tax implications and revenue implications for the state.
So that's I have a similar story. I don't know how I'm related to this guy. He's my grandma's brother or cousin
Mhm.
or something. I don't know, but he owns a bowling alley in North Carolina, and they do
Oh
not
yeah.
sell alcohol. And
Mhm.
it's
How the
like,
fuck do you have a bowling alley and not
I
sell? Dude,
know.
I've never thrown out. I was gonna say something differently. I've never bowled without drinking a beer.
Yeah, 100%.
Maybe one or two kids' birthday parties, but even then,
Well, I think that like going to a bowling alley is synonymous with going and having a few beers. I mean,
yeah. Same way,
that's what you do.
I
Who
don't go to a
bowls
ball.
sober? Sounds boring.
Yeah, I
Except
don't
for,
go
I guess,
to a
pros.
I don't go to a ball game, a baseball game, and leave without having had a beer and a hot dog.
Yeah,
Not because I necessarily need either one, but
it's the
it's
American dream.
the American way, man.
Yeah. But yeah, he it's closed now because there's somebody else opened another bowling alley in the county, and they served alcohol, and so everybody goes there. And he his was a religious conviction. He didn't want to be responsible. He told me this. He didn't want to be responsible for somebody going home and beating their wife and neglecting their children. And I was like, I can
Understand.
tell that you're a sober person because the vast majority of drinkers don't go home and beat their wife and abuse their children.
They're too drunk to do it. First of all,
Right.
and second of all, I don't know of a successful operating bowling alley that does not have a sports bar, not just a bar, but a full blown sports bar where you can go in. You don't have to bowl. You can go sit at a bar and order food and watch a game or play
Yeah.
pool. It's just part of the business model, I think.
And that's another thing that's fascinating too is the way certain countries do it. So they're not necessarily blue laws, but they kind of are. They limit the what they can sell.
Mhm.
which is funny because a lot of them are so in America, you would never allow like, "Hey, government, I wanna sell this liquor in your country," and then the government would be like, "Okay, but we get a kickback." Like, they already tax it, so there is that incentive. But in a lot of countries, especially Mexico, they do this, and Diageo is actually the one that has a lot of these contracts. I'm
Mhm.
guessing. I know I'm not guessing. I know they're doing it, but I don't know how much. But they are doing kickbacks to the government officials. But it's like that's why
Mhm.
when you travel, you'll see like Johnny Walker, the Tanqueray, Casamigos,
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Don
All
Julio,
the
Captain
duty-free stuff?
Morgan. Yeah, you're not going to see a huge, great selection of alcohol because they're just not allowed to go into that country
Yeah.
because somebody else is already getting all the
That explains
benefits from it.
why whiskey like, you only really see like, when you if you ever been to a duty-free store or seen
Yeah.
American liquors overseas, it's typically some of the ones you named, but from a whiskey perspective, it's usually Jack Daniel's,
Hmm.
Jim Beam.
And Jack Daniels is huge in other countries, and people are like, "I
Yeah.
don't understand how," and it's like, well, because they
When you're
they
a
limit.
brand yeah, when you're a brand that's big, when you have a brand that big, you can afford to play that international
Yep,
game,
yep,
and it costs money to play.
and they do it, but I'm sure they make money hands over
Oh,
fist
for
because
sure.
they're the only option. Yeah, that was one in Mexico, like, there was Johnny Walker, Jack Daniels, and then,
Mhm.
like, everywhere, and that was
Well,
about
it
it, and
bums
then
me
some
out
other, like,
because
shitty scotches.
there's they have releases that go overseas that we don't get in the United States.
Oh, yeah.
You know this. So
Mhm.
there's really cool whiskeys out there that we can't even fucking get here.
Yep, and then first, like, my biggest disappointment was the Wild Turkey, the father and son 13 year that was everywhere except here.
Yeah.
I finally
Yeah.
got some, and it's all watered down, doesn't even taste like Wild Turkey. I was very sad.
Oh, that's unfortunate.
But normally, you can get some cool stuff. Like, there's a lot of cool Blanton's releases that don't come to the US.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I wanted to ask you because another thing I saw in Blue Laws that wasn't really related to alcohol or hunting was one that's big still in the United States is car sales. I know you sold cars for a while. Did Were you guys allowed to sell cars on Sundays?
we weren't open on Sundays, but I don't know if that was a
Okay,
legal reason.
it might be. You know what? I'm gonna look it up right now. It was in
I think
Virginia,
if
so
that would probably be a labor thing. Like,
yeah,
I don't know,
I would
because
imagine so.
working in car dealerships is rough. A lot of dealerships are closed on Sunday, so
Mm,
I don't know. There's probably a rule there. But um, one of the things about it these days is especially somewhere like Charleston, where it's a very touristy area.
mhm.
If we were to restrict the sale of whiskey on Sundays, that can affect local economies,
Oh yeah,
particularly in areas where tourism or hospitality industries they rely on weekend sales. So they're not making any money during the week because nobody's here, and then Friday,
sure.
Saturday, Sunday, places popping. So they got to be able to do it, and that's one of the things that's been happening. I actually pulled up the press release. Been in debate for many years. Should people be allowed to buy and sell retail liquor on Sundays in South Carolina? So, like I think the stores are probably got some way to go before you can have a store open on Sunday, but distilleries
Yeah,
now are able to sell liquor on Sundays because it's because of that, because of the tourism thing.
nice. Well, are there are plenty of places in the United States that thrive on either tourism or like I think about places like around Fort Bragg. I'm sorry, Fort Liberty. That's Fayetteville. That city
Eh.
lives and breathes by the military personnel that live there.
Oh yeah,
If you removed that installation and all of the supporting contractor offices in that area, Fayetteville would dwindle and
oh yeah.
die. It
It's
absolutely would.
super developed now compared to the way it was when I came to visit you in high school.
Dude,
Like
think
that place
about
doesn't
yeah,
even look the same.
dude, when I moved there, and like I said, 99, I think it was, there's a highway, Highway 87 that goes from Fayetteville through Spring Lake up to Sanford. That used to be a one-way road, like one way in each direction, 2 lanes. And it's like 2 and 3 lanes in both directions now. It used to be like an hour drive, especially if you got stuck behind someone going slow or a tractor. It was
Yeah,
wild. And it's you can get from Fayetteville to Sanford now in 25, 30 minutes.
I
It's
was
crazy
out
to me.
there for something. I don't remember what it was, but anyway, I was trying to find that road that split. Was it Bragg and Pope? But it's where like Sharky's and Big Apple
Oh,
and all that was. Is
Yeah,
it Bragg
Bragg
Boulevard?
Boulevard.
That
Bragg Boulevard's the one. So that's where all the, like, all those places are on now. Big Apple is off one of the back gates on another road,
okay.
but, I
I
don't even
couldn't
know if that
remember
place
it,
is
but I was
still
driving
open.
around and I'm like, "This doesn't look at all like I remember."
It's also changed, man. They expanded, an Interstate 295, like,
Yeah,
that comes
I
from
rode
95
that.
all the way into like, Fort Bragg and actually
Yep.
has an exit that dumps into like
That's how
the
I got on
in
Bragg.
processing or whatever.
Yep.
That used to not be there, and that's changed a bunch of traffic flows. So you can't even get anywhere. I go back there to drive now, and I have no idea where I'm at and what I'm doing. I have to use a
Yeah.
GPS in a town I basically grew up in. It's wild.
Do you remember going to Sharky's?
Yeah, of course.
That was that was my first time in one of those, and I remember thinking how cool it was. It's a strip club for those that are wondering. we were we were what? It's still in high school or
Oh,
right out of
every bit of 19 at the most.
yeah. That's what I thought.
Yeah. And we only went to that one that we went to because it was one of the only few in town that would stamp your hand that you weren't, you know, 21 yet. The other places would make you put on a white shirt, a white t-shirt that said under 21 in big letters and pink letters. And under the blue lights in there, you glowed like a freaking
Yeah.
retard. So, freaking like a
No, that's
glow
fine.
stick.
I think we're allowed to say that again.
Are we? All
Well,
right.
people realize that we're not talking about the disability. We're just talking about that. The word doesn't mean that.
Eminem said, they don't
The
know.
but the didn't we drink in there? Like, didn't we wash the hand stamp off?
I don't remember. We probably did. I
Pretty
also,
sure we did.
that's also during a time when I was DJing at Big Apple. Right.
Yeah.
So, uh, is kind of a club courtesy thing. Like you get to know staffers and people that work at other clubs. And so like on their days off, they would come hang out at the Big Apple, drink because they knew the people, they knew the atmosphere, they knew the
Hmm.
bouncers. It was a safe place to go hang out and feel like you could relax and not get harassed. And then vice versa. When we weren't DJing Thursday, Friday, Saturdays, we would go to to these strip clubs and we'd get dollar beers and
Yeah.
um, you know, things like that. If girls were getting harassed by somebody, they would come hang out at our table and it would look like they were catering to us, but really they were just getting away from the creep in the corner, that kind of thing.
And I don't remember if you told me this story and I linked it into my life or if I was there when this happened, but didn't somebody get stabbed while we were at the Big Apple? Like in the parking lot?
So yeah, so someone got so what happened was the night that we were there, there was a gentleman that was asked to leave. And the big guy that worked at the front, big tall black guy, his name was Gino, bald head, super nice guy,
Amazing
but
cheese
would
sticks.
what? Yeah, they had really good cheese sticks. But
Gina's.
Gino escorted him out, asked him to leave. Gino didn't play games. He was certified for like corporate protection or executive protection. He did that with a team because it was a steady paycheck. But he also did personal security for abortion doctors, attorneys, VIPs coming into town, all that kind of stuff. He asked this individual to leave, escorted him out. That individual got in a cab and about 2 blocks down the road, robbed that guy at gunpoint, robbed the cab driver at gunpoint. And so
Mhm.
the whole thing was like, dude, that guy had a gun the whole time. Things got really heated. We're really lucky that dude didn't start just shooting in this
Yeah.
place. But a bunch of shit happened at that place. I watched a bouncer get his orbital bone crushed in by a dude who walked up to him, said a couple things, and then just sucker punched him because that bouncer was fucking his wife.
Oh, well, he probably deserved that.
Yeah, he did. He took it like a champ, though, man. Not a tear. Not a. I mean,
Yeah.
I
Probably didn't
that's
feel
a
it yet.
that's a probably not. That's a heavy bone to crack and break. And there's nothing they
Mhm.
can. I mean, they had to do reconstructive surgery. He has a badass scar right here now where they filleted him open and put that bone back together.
Where'd you get that? And I was screwing this dude's wife.
Not a cool story.
Yeah, I wouldn't
That's
tell
for
that
sure.
story.
Not to mention the guy had been deployed. So
Oh, that's even
it,
worse.
yeah, definitely worse. And we saw that kind of stuff all the time,
Oh, yeah,
unfortunately.
I mean, yeah,
Um, it
100%.
happens all the time. Some chick in there with a different dude every other weekend, and then suddenly she's with the same guy 4 or 5 weeks in a row. It's like, oh, someone
Yeah,
just
we
got
had
back.
several people that, I was deployed with that came home single.
Yeah, it's shitty, man.
Unfortunately. Yeah, luckily that didn't happen to me.
Anyways, way off
Yeah,
topic there.
yep. So that's the podcast. So I wrote down two examples from specific states, and I know you have more, and then we'll get into kind of the 2020 changes.
Okay.
But in Texas, until 1985, blue laws in Texas prohibited the sale of housewares like pots and pans on Sundays. Alcohol sales, including whiskey, remain restricted on Sundays with limitation on purchase hours. I thought it was interesting. Pots and pans, you couldn't sell cooking stuff on Sundays in
Hmm,
Texas.
that's funny.
Massachusetts, Rhode Island, and Maine blue laws in these states prohibited retail stores, including those selling whiskey, from opening on major holidays like Thanksgiving and Christmas, reflecting a broader tradition of Sunday rest. So it was major holidays, which I think a lot of places nowadays are just closed because it's a holiday.
Hmm.
I mean, I don't get mad when I go somewhere and it's closed. I usually, if I go somewhere on a holiday to get something and the people are there, I will thank them for being there.
Yeah,
So
I
it's
usually check to make sure they're open before I waste my
Yeah.
time and give myself a reason to be upset.
Right. Those are the only two
Oh,
specific states. I know that you had some.
oh, I have almost every state here listed. Is there a state you're interested in?
Let's do.
Illinois has horse racing is prohibited on Sundays unless authorized by local municipality. Car dealerships are also closed on Sundays
What about
in
Kentucky?
Illinois. Kentucky, good choice. Let's see.
We'll do like Kentucky, South Carolina, Georgia.
Oh man,
Maybe
Kentucky might not be on here. Hang on a second.
it's fine. How about South Carolina or Georgia?
Yeah, hang on. Yeah, South Carolina is not on this list either. Well, that's maybe not as good a list as I thought. I figured Wikipedia would be a great list.
I try to stay with Wikipedia. Well, just pick a
Good for
couple.
you. Yeah.
We'll do it live.
Do it live. Let's do Kentucky. You mother. Yeah. So Kentucky blue laws. Let's see what we got here.
You are fake news.
I am not. They don't have any listed.
Oh, well, okay. We can go straight
The
into.
laws. See, the thing is that it defaults to assuming you want to know about alcohol.
Yeah.
And so, like, it's it says the law was amended for over 3 year, whatever. Yeah, I don't. Kentucky prohibits most commercial activity on Sundays, but we've been there. I don't know how true that is. I mean, a lot of stuff's closed on Sunday, but is it because of it's Sunday or because of blue laws? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like a lot of places are just closed on Sundays.
It's illegal to wear a fake mustache in church in Alabama. You're also not allowed to put ice cream in your back pocket, which I
I,
don't really
I'm
understand how that's a blue law, but sure.
I'm here for it. Like, I don't think you should put it in your back pocket either.
Yeah. Well, we'll move on to the
Yeah,
2020
sorry.
shit. No, you're fine.
South Carolina still has some blue laws in effect in some states that we're aware of this.
Yeah, I mean, we can't go to a liquor store on Sunday here, which is
Right.
funny because in Virginia they would stop selling beer, I think at like 2 or 3 in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
But in South Carolina, and you could buy alcohol on Sundays in Virginia, but here you can't buy alcohol on Sundays, but you can buy beer 24 hours a day in South Carolina,
Yep.
which is it's interesting that they're like, well, at least it's not liquor.
Well, here's my thing. I think about that, and I'm like, I know some dudes that work night shifts or weird shifts, like in a sock or even first responders. Like, if they get off at a crazy time at 4 in the morning and they want to come home and have a few beers before they crash, like, sucks that they can't stop off and grab those on the way home after just working a 12-hour shift on the road protecting your ass.
It almost makes it worse to make people pre-plan their drinking. Like you should be able to just drink whenever, but it's like you
Yeah.
have to actually
No.
plan it out because the store's closed on Sunday. It's like
Yeah.
you're more than likely to buy more than you normally would. I guess I don't know.
Conditioning alcoholics is what you're doing.
True that, dog. If you want to drink on a Sunday, you better we better buy way enough that you won't drink it all on Saturday.
There were a couple times where we bought stuff on a Saturday when I was living with my dad after college, and we would buy enough to watch some college football and should have enough to get through Sunday. And I may or may not have made a couple of like midnight walks down to a gas station and shady walks back to the apartment with a 30 rack in my hand for the next day.
Oh, I mean, you know where I used to live in
I do.
Virginia. There used to be a 7-Eleven. They used to always say if you live within a quarter mile of 7-Eleven, your expectancy of violent crime and robberies and stuff goes up.
Oh,
You
I
could
don't know.
literally throw a rock at a 7-Eleven from that house.
Well, I guess I think it probably depends on what state you're in because like Bethesda and some other really like Alexandria, Virginia, I've stayed in some nice hotels that were a block away from a 7-Eleven.
Yeah.
Which is cool to stay in a $300 and something a night hotel and walk down and still get a 7-Eleven meat pie and Red Bull at 2 in the morning.
Dude, those Jamaican meat pies are money.
Yeah.
I haven't had one in so long. I kind of forgot they existed.
Yeah, dude. Gabe Gomez actually introduced him to me.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
They're delicious.
Yep. Good
So
shit.
during 2020, many states relaxed blue laws to help businesses, especially restaurants and bars, so they could survive financially. These changes including allowing alcohol sales on days and at times when they were previously restricted, like Sundays. States temporarily lifted these bans on Sunday sales of whiskey and other alcoholic beverages to boost revenue for struggling establishments. And that significant change during those years was the widespread adoption of to-go alcohol. That remember when that first started, that was crazy. but now it's like commonplace. Everybody knows you can get it
Yeah.
outside of like a bruise through or something.
Right.
But like being able to go to a restaurant and get alcohol to go, and some states are like we were in Kentucky, I think, and they literally poured you something to go and put a lid on it, and they're like, here you go.
You remember the place I took you in Louisiana before, like way before any of this?
The place on the bayou.
Well, they have a few of them, but you go through and you pick whatever like cocktail you would normally want, or even if it's just
Oh
a
yeah, yeah,
Jack and
yeah.
Coke, and they have slushy machines all pre-made with
Yep.
alcohol in them already, and you go through a drive-through and they give it to you in a styrofoam cup with a lid, and they put a piece of Scotch tape
Yeah.
over the hole and give you a sealed, closed
Yep.
um, straw, and that's your closed container.
Yeah. Yep.
Wild.
I do remember that now. But yeah, the so those laws allowing the to-go alcohol allowed restaurants and bars to sell whiskey and other spirits to go to keep their business afloat. That way, people weren't in the restaurant, and they
Yeah.
never actually turned these off.
Hmm.
So and this was a lot of curbside delivery options for alcoholic beverages and areas where it was previously restricted. And then they also had like, is it Bruzel or Boozy? I don't know. There's like an alcohol delivery app now. I can see the
Oh
logo. It's like a
yeah,
red.
I
We
think it
don't
is.
have it here,
No, it's not here. It's not approved here.
but that did take off pretty well, and that's a pretty cool. We used it in Florida. Like you could order something and literally they would deliver
Drizzly.
it. Drizzly, that's what it was.
Oh, there's a handful of them now.
Oh, I'm sure there are.
Mini bar delivery. I had
Yeah,
an idea. It probably already exists, but I wanted to create a delivery service that would provide the drivers with a special cooler to deliver
hmm
desserts. Like when it's
yeah,
late
that'd
at
be cool.
night and I want a fucking blizzard from Air DQ, but I don't want it to be halfway melted before I get here, you know?
That wouldn't have been my first choice. Was a Blizzard. I was thinking Carmela's like carrot cake or something.
Whatever. Yeah, it's just first thing comes to mind.
The other thing that changed was the direct to consumer sales. Some states eased these restrictions to mainly distilleries and breweries, which include the whiskey producers. They were allowed to ship their products directly to customers' homes, which previously before, like now that's, I think the whiskey kind of industry blew up around the same time as this, so people didn't realize it. But before that, there was all the time strict adherence to the three-tiered system. But
Mhm,
now you can go to in some places in the beginning had like on premise, but it was a separately owned liquor store that was on premise, and that's how they were getting away with it. But
mhm.
now you can buy direct from distillery in in a lot of cases. I didn't look up what states that is, but they also extended the hours. So the blue laws often limit the hours of alcohol sales, especially on Sundays, as we've talked about. But the with the closure of on-premise drinking and dining, excuse me, states extended sales hours to accommodate increased demand for alcohol purchase at retail stores and for home consumption. And I didn't write down what states that was, but some states, they were like, for instance, South Carolina, you have to be closed at 7,
Mhm.
like lights off, everybody done. Um, some states allowed them to stay open longer. But this temporary relaxation during all that craziness led to permanent legislative and changes in some states. So legislators recognize the economic benefits of these relaxed
Mhm.
laws, including increased tax revenue and business survival. So as a result, several states made these adjustments permanent. That's why you can still get alcohol to go and different hours and stuff.
Huh.
But relaxing all these laws provided much needed support for local businesses, and we're glad that it happened. So that's one good thing that came out of it.
Yeah. Anything to help is, Texas car dealerships, both new and used, have to remain closed on either Saturday or Sunday. They can choose.
Really,
They have to be closed on one or the other. That's weird.
I think I would be closed on Saturday,
I think so too.
but I guess you'd have to play with that and see.
Yeah,
Maybe
I'm sure
like
it's going to
every other week.
depend on your demographic or something. I'd
Yeah,
imagine.
yeah.
I'm looking through some of these states. A very common blue law is just restricting sales of alcohol between certain hours,
hmm
which I mean,
So I
it's
got
not that big of a deal.
3 states that I researched just to pull it out, but New York was one of the ones that they allow you to sell cocktails, including whiskey-based drinks,
Oh,
for
nice.
takeout and delivery. And so this policy was initially temporary, but now it is permanent. In Texas, they allowed beer, wine, mixed drinks to be included with food orders for delivery and takeout, and now that is permanent. And then in Virginia, the state eased restrictions on direct shipping of whiskey and other spirits from distilleries to consumers, and that is also staying permanent. And I noticed some of that in Kentucky. Like Wild Turkey did a release that they promoted, and it was sold through Reserve Bar, of all places. So you could go to Reserve Bar and get the new Wild Turkey Master's Keep that came out this year. But I thought that was interesting.
Yeah.
But yeah, blue laws. That was basically.
Oh, Kentucky does ban sale of alcohols on Sundays.
Really?
Yeah, that was really bugging me.
I know most distilleries are closed on Mondays and a lot on Sundays. I've been there on Mondays before, and it's like, oh, let's go to a distillery, and they're all closed.
They're all closed.
But yeah, so blue law is pretty crazy. They were basically started for those reasons. This is how they've evolved, and thankfully, during the 2020 nuts craziness that happened, some of these laws were changed, and it could be a long road ahead to continue to get some support for some of these laws.
Mm-hmm.
But one thing I've noticed is there's a lot of states now that have like these organizations where they get together and they all go vote on these laws, and a lot of them are like a distillery organizations that are trying to change them.
Yeah,
mainly for on-premise sales, which has happened now in South Carolina. But yeah.
So from a hunting perspective, it's actually not as widespread as I think it used to be. Currently, only Connecticut, Maine, Pennsylvania, and several counties in West Virginia still prohibit hunting on Sunday. North Carolina explicitly bans gun hunting on Sundays, according to this.
We don't want your thunder cannon going off during church service.
I think I read somewhere else where that's been changed to be just between certain hours. Like it started like at 7 a.m. and 12:30 p.m. Like, but it's okay. I guess it's okay to shoot your rifle at 5 a.m. I don't know, but it seems kind of like a silly law. But
it's
I know that
probably based on sunlight.
Probably South Carolina just only repealed and removed the Sunday hunting ban on public lands like a few years ago. It's not been. We've only been allowed to do it for a few years.
I think it was 2 years ago because it was we would go stay out there and it's like everybody goes home on Sunday because you can't hunt.
Yeah, you can't hunt, right?
But now you can.
Sure enough.
Did I tell you about the last time I went there and talked to that game warden?
Is this the conversation about how dead it's gotten out there?
Yeah.
There's not a lot of people hunting.
There's not, and we did an episode on that a long time ago. If I can find it, I'll throw it in here. But we talked about kind of how the national forest is broken up here because we get asked a lot, like, where do you guys hunt at? And, you have to join a club, or you got to hunt public land, or you got to find somebody to let you hunt their property. And after my debacle, I don't think I'm going to start trying to ask people to hunt their property anymore. But and a little update on that. I got my platform sticks and one camera back. This individual still has my other camera and my solar panel and my lithium battery, which I think all tied together is like $500.
Well, you should take him to small claims court for that amount plus.
Well, I had the lawyer hit him up, and he said that he has quit responding to him. So now he's going to the landowner to get the landowner to tell him to give it back. I mean, the reality is I could send a police officer to his house to get it whenever I want, but
sure,
I'm reminded of the quote of Omerta. Do you remember it?
Maybe.
For a wounded man shall say to his assailant, nope, I started too early. Those who appeal to the law against his fellow man is either a fool or a coward. Those who cannot take care of themselves without that law is both. For a wounded man shall say to his assailant, if I live, I will kill you. If I die, you are forgiven. Such is the rule of honor. And that's a old Italian gangster mafia thing.
Nice.
Like those who appeal to the law against his fellow man is either a fool or a coward. So I try not to do that.
Sure.
And I haven't done that in a long
discuss
time.
It, come to resolution as men.
Yeah. We'll just figure it out. And if we can't, and it leads to violence, you better kill me.
Oh, geez.
No, it's not going to go to that over a stupid camera. No one's going to lose their life over a camera.
Of course not. That would be silly.
Also, between me, you, and everybody listening, that camera hasn't been working right for like the last 6 months. So I really don't care. It's more about the principle.
Well, the GPS works good enough for you to know exactly where it is.
GPS does work.
Which is
sure does.
It's funny that he's not smart enough to even consider that might be the case.
That would have been the first thing.
Like an actual pinging GPS.
Yeah.
Telling you exactly where it is.
Ladybird Lane.
What a
Pretty
story.
stupid. Yeah, if anybody learns anything from that, do not take someone's trail camera to your house. Like if you have a trail camera on your property that shouldn't be there, sure, remove it. But don't take it to your house
Yeah, that's a bad idea.
because technology today, a lot of them don't have GPS, but I purposely bought the one that does. So
Hmm.
mainly because of the hunt club, I didn't want it to go walk away and then
Sure.
me not be able to retrieve it.
Yeah.
But anything else on blue laws?
No, I don't have anything else. It's fascinating. It's a fascinating little thing that our country holds on to for. I don't know. I don't know if I agree for it or for the reasons or not, but they exist nonetheless.
Yep. I think it's pretty stupid. Um, I'm not a huge fan of laws in general. I think
Sure.
that you should be allowed to do. Oh, that was I was thinking the other day. Like I was all about. I'm not really, we're not political, and we're not going to get political here, but um, I really liked RFK.
His statement there
I
focused on.
didn't. I still haven't watched it.
Oh, what about it did you like?
No, I just like him. I like that he wants to kind of expose some of this corruption that's going on in the government. And so
Yeah.
even when he was a Democrat, I think I probably would have voted for him. And then as an independent, I was like, that's a wasted vote. But in order to check my box, he was going to go get it. So now it's like, do I go buy a MAGA hat or what? Like, what's
Yeah.
the next step?
So he for those that don't know, he pulled out of the presidential race as an independent, or libertarian, whatever it was, independent, I think, and so
He's
and
independent.
endorsed Donald Trump. And his reason for doing so was that Trump extended the offer for him to take on a role in his administration, whatever that might be, with the intent of tackling the public health crisis in our country, specifically the rise of uh,
Jab injuries.
well, not just that, but he put a heavy focus on obesity and other health problems in our children that are a result of the shitty food in our country and the poor nutrition guidelines and things like that that you and I have talked tons about on this podcast since doing
Hmm.
our own sort of health journey, if you will. And he closed that statement, whether you like him or not. He closed that statement with, oh, what did he say? Something to the effect of, we can change this country if we will just love our children more than we hate each other.
Yeah,
And I was
that's a
like,
good point.
it's like, we have to protect this next generation. They are this country's future, and we're poisoning them. And it's just, it's not good, man. And if he's willing to tackle that, and yeah, he's gonna piss off a lot of powerful people in the process, and corporations. And
Yeah.
so he following closer in line with his family's lineage than his family may want to admit, because they put out a pretty ugly statement saying that he was tarnishing the legacy of the hard work their family had done. And I'm like,
Yeah.
taking a stand simply because he endorsed a Republican. And it's like, if let's maybe just stop being so damn bipartisan, and focus on the issues that are a problem in the country.
The
And
two party
that's
system sucks, just
yeah.
flat out. And the fact that you have to choose one of the two, I mean, it's just it's so
And
dumb.
this isn't the time or the place. We also don't have enough time, but you can do the research yourself, and you'll get an understanding of why we have a two-party system.
Yeah.
It's not because we have to. It's because the two parties work together to manipulate the system to keep it that way. They
Yeah.
make it difficult for third parties to get into the debates. They make it difficult for them to meet the requirements that they themselves set in order to be on that ballot. So they sort of rig it for themselves so that there's
Hmm.
always just a Democrat or Republican that you have to choose from. And then all the backdoor shady deals that go on between both parties. You hear people talk about, doesn't matter, Democrat, Republican, it's just two heads of the same snake. The more you read, the more that makes sense.
It does. And it's what's funny too is like I consider myself uh mentally older than I should be. And I think the reason why is because of not having children. So I didn't spend the last 16 years of my life like you did raising kids. I've literally spent the last 16 years of my life educating myself on, full time basically. I don't have to go home and
Sure.
take care of children. So it's like my brain is in a weird place for my age that probably most people wouldn't be. But what I've come to realize is like, if you think that you have to take a stance on something, you're probably wrong, in my
Yeah.
opinion. Like I just feel like who we're supposed to be is not what our structure is currently. We're not
Right.
supposed to be arguing about politics. We're not supposed to be somehow still arguing about race. We shouldn't be arguing about what kind of food you should eat. Like we should be able to just say, okay, what makes you feel good? Do that,
Right.
within reason. Or not even within reason. I really don't care. But it's funny because of the raw milk thing. Like I've been a proponent of raw milk for quite some time now, and
Yeah.
it's funny how much everything you see about it is just people trashing it and saying how dangerous and it's poison and all this stuff. So the store we get it from, they got 500 gallons, which is a small release. Like 2 days ago, and
Yeah.
so the wife went to go get some and got some for a neighbor of ours, and they were like, "Yeah, we only got 500 gallons and we'll be sold out by tomorrow." So if you think it's like some crazy niche
Ah,
thing that no one's doing, like I'm crazy, Matt's crazy, drinks raw milk. Yeah, well, there's 500 gallons of it sold in a day. I mean, a whiskey barrel pick, you couldn't sell 500 whiskey
right.
barrel picks in a day. So it's granted they're a lot, milk's a lot cheaper, but
Right. Right. Right.
point being, there's a lot of people that are waking up and realizing that what you think reality is not reality. Like you're
No,
literally in the side of a system that you're supposed to be in, and it's being shoved down your throat. And if you wake up every day hating your neighbor because they're a liberal or a Republican, like you're in the wrong.
that's exactly what they want.
Yeah, they want us to fight with each other and not pay attention to anything. And I'm not even talking about pay attention to what they're doing. They just don't want us to. You know how strong we'd be if we were like, enough's enough. Let's just all get together and fix it. Like, let's have a common city square thing where we all get together and just fix the issues. And it's like, as time it's like Fight Club. And as
Yeah.
time goes on, more people end up joining. Like, what? Everybody gets along, nobody fights, nobody. No, because we don't subscribe to these ideas anymore. I just
Right.
refuse to let my life be dictated by something someone else taught me. I'm just not going to. And I'm
Yeah.
not going to spend my life focused on something I can't change. And in all reality, it doesn't really matter for me.
Yeah. I find that if you just turn off the news and get off social media and pay to have a conversation with your neighbors, you know, look around what's going on, you'll find that things are not nearly half as bad as they make it out to be.
They're
Now,
not.
I'm not saying the economy isn't shit right now because it 1,000% is, but
Yeah, but
this
also it's like
country's not
people
as
are
divided on social issues as as the media makes it out to be.
that's one thing too about the economy. It's like, yeah, the economy's bad. But if you remove yourself from that rat race of needing the new iPhone and needing this
Thousand
new
percent.
gadget, needing that, needing a new car, needing all this stuff, if you're fine. Like I can't tell you how much money I've saved because I just flat out don't care anymore. I don't want to be involved in the rat race anymore. Um, that's insert
Yeah.
Kentucky property. But it's like, do you really want to spend the rest of your life working until you're in your 80s to then retire and be crippled and can't do anything with it? And you just sit around and get old and atrophy and die?
Yeah.
I mean,
No, you
that's
can't
that's the
you can't
American
even
dream.
you can't even retire right now like a normal
No,
person at 60. They're trying to raise the retirement age, and Social Security is not going to be a thing for us when we get to that age.
nope.
It's not going
It's
to
the
exist.
biggest Ponzi scheme ever made.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
It's just nuts. I wish that more people would think about it objectively and be like, "Oh yeah, you're right. None of this truly matters." Like
Yeah.
it used to matter to me, so I get it. And I know you're potentially listening right now like you're blind, you're naive, you don't get it. Then that's fine. I think the same thing about you. So I just think that there's more important things: community, conversation, hanging out with people. I read a story the other day about a guy that moved to the Amazon and got rid of his all technology, and he ended up writing about it like months later when he came back. He's like, I couldn't believe how much my body changed because we ignore all these like think about animals like they can feel magnetic poles, they can
Hmm.
see, they can do things we can't do, and it's like how we're essentially animals too. And you hear about these old timey technologies and old timey things and remedies and farmer's almanac and all this stuff that's kind of
Right.
forgotten now.
Oh yeah. Yep.
But just from him not having his phone on him all the time, he started to like get in tune with nature. And he gave a bunch of examples of stuff that like, for I get this feeling, I could smell this, like, and then this happens, and it's like there's
Yeah.
things going on that we're just so blind to because we're so busy arguing with each other about
Yeah.
politics or
Do you
religion
remember?
or whatever.
Yeah. Do you remember the elk hunt we were on? How the second half of that
Oh
trip,
yeah,
like we were like we were there was just this, I don't know, you become in tune with with the environment much more. Like we could sense, so we were in this valley, we couldn't see much of the sky, but we could sense when wind weather was changing.
Yeah.
Like before the temperature was going to drop, like we could sense a change in the environment and
Like we
pressure
need to
and
start
that
heading down. There's a
yeah.
storm
And it
coming.
was just an intuitive kind of thing. Like you could just feel like, it's time for me to get to lower ground. Like this doesn't,
And we did
and it
that in
was
4 days.
4 days. Imagine months
Yeah.
or weeks. Yeah, I love it. It's why I love camping and doing this stuff with the kids when we do it, disconnect and just go somewhere. When we did that week in Boundary Waters and we lost cell phone connection like an hour before we got to the outfitter, that was one of the best weeks of my life. It
Yeah.
was great.
Yep.
Um, so yeah,
I've been looking at like Appalachian stuff, just things I
mhm,
grew up with, like never bring an old broom to a new house. Don't whistle inside. Like all these like weird things, like
yeah,
and some people know a lot of them, like breaking a mirror, walking under a
sure,
ladder, opening an umbrella inside. It's like these are all these like superstitions because it happened enough times. It's like who knows if there's reality to that. Probably not. It's
right.
probably all crazy. But there's things like however many days of fog you have in August, that's how many snow days you'll have in March.
Oh shit.
And when the smoke's coming out of the chimney, if it sinks down low to the ground, it's going to snow because there's a pressure change that's pushing everything down. And it's like all these things that you would never even care to know because you can just open your weather app
Yeah.
and figure it out. Like it's just crazy how divided people want to be. I'm not saying how divided we are. That's crazy too. But
Well,
people, they crave it. Like they want
I
to
think that's
argue with
part of it.
people online.
Yeah. Yeah, I think a lot of this country has been conditioned over the years to feed. They get these dopamine rushes off of the argument, the fight,
Yeah.
the back and forth. I don't have the energy for it, man. I'm
I
not
don't know.
going to argue with somebody on the internet. I'm probably not going to argue with you in person about anything. I just sky's purple. You're right, man.
Sometimes I'll make comments. Like I'm like, I hear what you're saying, bro, but here's my especially on the carnivore thing. Like here's my
Mhm,
personal experience. I had a lady yesterday. Excuse me. I don't remember what it was that we were talking about. It's something about carnivore, and I was like, it changed my life. Like my blood panels are all good. I've lost all this weight.
mhm.
I know multiple people that have stuck with it and like they're reaping the benefits. And she came in there and was like, "Shame on you for lying. Like these are straight up lies. You're killing people with misinformation.
What?
Hashtag be better." And I was like, I said, DM me your email address and I will send you blood work starting in October of last year, which is almost a full year now. And you
Mhm.
can watch my numbers change right there. I can send you pictures of me. I can send you pictures of a scale. I mean, I've documented all this. It's one day I'll
Yeah.
put it all together. I wanted to get to a year before I started like, here's what I experienced.
Right.
But it's funny, man, because doing this and people seeing the change, proofs in the pudding. I
Sure.
got a bunch of people that are doing it. My mother is actually, and she
Yeah.
was never a meat eating kind of person. She was
Mhm.
always kind of vegan, vegetarian, and she's eating sirloins. I'm like, you got to get more fat in there,
Yeah.
And
Have
so
you been
she hasn't
sending her
never.
your blood work?
Yeah, she knows.
Yeah. That's
But
cool,
she's
man.
she's just blown away. That's why she's doing it. She's like, that's so crazy. And the other day she texted me and was like, I am craving hamburger.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah,
Yeah.
that's what happens. That is what
Protein
happens.
and fat when your body becomes adapted to using or you get into ketosis and your body wants that fat for energy. You
Yeah.
crave it.
And it's the other thing too is we were talking about like I couldn't eat pizza 3 days a week. Like
Mhm.
I always loved pizza. I was really worried about pizza more than I was anything else doing this diet.
Yeah.
And now I could care less. But steak, I'm telling you, I could eat a ribeye steak every day, and every time I take a bite, I do my little happy dance, like it's delicious. It's so good.
It is good.
And then you cheat and you have something, and you're like, yeah. I will say, I had some jalapeno cheddar sourdough bread the other day from this fresh market thing, like handmade. Some
Mhm.
lady, I had a little piece of that, and that was pretty good. But outside of that,
Yeah.
I can't tell you anything I've had and been like that was worth it.
Yeah. Me either. Me either.
So that's blue laws.
Yeah.
I think we're good. Oh, we just got an email back for that hunting trip.
No, I'll have to check that out.
Just wanted to keep you posted. Would love to get it locked in ASAP. Okay, cool. That'll be fun. I guess we can
What,
start mentioning that. We're going to go on a private hunt with a distillery to make some content for a new whiskey release they're doing.
do they have the place or are we
Yeah,
supposed
they
to
have the
find it?
place. It's
Oh,
in
okay.
McClellanville.
Okay.
So I think we're going with the head distiller and one of the owners.
Very cool.
That'll be fun.
Yeah,
All right. That's all I got.
me too. Have a good week, folks. Thanks for joining and tuning in.